Old One-Eye. The campfire roared as the guardsmen huddled around it for warmth. The young faces of the recruits were everything they should be while on drill. Haggard, exhausted, yet alert. They knew there would be no live exercise tonight. The sergeant had taken off his legs, said that they had given him gyp. So there he was, sitting on a log, a paragon of martial excellence, until one looked down and saw that he did not reach below his upper thighs. They were missing. Yet, even then, most in the squad knew he could have slaughtered most there, even without them. But it did mean that they could relax tonight at least. The squad had been beasted by their sergeant remorselessly, yet now they could sit and relax for a short period. All looked at the sergeant as he began to respond to the question. A simple statement that all had expected to evoke nods of agreement from all, even the sergeant. When he had not done this, had not instantly agreed, the collected faces of the recruits had fallen. All watched as he took out his pistol and looked at it, then raised his eyes to each of them as he looked around the congregation of the campfire. The bugs. Where to begin? I fought against them on my first deployment. All of the recruits now leaned forward slightly, intent on his every word. My brother had finished basic. He was to go the next day, which is exactly when I received my call-up papers. I had not even started my time in training, yet off we went. The young men and women now looked on in awe. Their sergeant had been one of the untested, the only regiments ever to leave their world without having gone through basic. It had never happened before. It had never happened since. Yet here was one of them. He had not only survived, he had done the legendary. He had managed to shine so well that when he was injured, he was not merely given a new set of cyber legs and sent back to the front. He was returned to their home world, a singular honor, to train the next generation of warriors. He had excelled, was one in a literal million. But his legs were still metal, nor were they combat models, for he could be heard coming for leagues around, the pistons of his legs pumping and letting out metallic screeches when pushed to move fast. The sergeant had them in the palm of his hand. No, they do not have heroes as we would call them, I guess. It is never a good idea to think of the enemy, to try to think like the enemy. That way leads to heresy. But they are not all the same. Despite how the tech priests may scream that they are just bugs, just animals, there are some among those hordes that are as canny and cunning as any of you, more so. There is the Red Terror, their lead assassin, the Swarm Lord, their general. But I don't know much about them. There is one more, and this one I do know about. So take a piss if you've a soft constitution, because I am about to tell you about how I barely survived my encounter with Old One-Eye. Welcome, gentle listener, I am Baldermort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and faces of the Warhammer 40k universe, the grim darkness of the far future, Where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. And today, we are to discuss something that most do not even believe exists. Heroes or legends of the Hive fleets. The Tyranids. And this is no ordinary bug by any stretch of the imagination. Of course, I can only be talking of Old One-Eye. No sniggering, you scamps. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote, Old One-Eye, the Beast of Calth. The Carnifex, known as Old One-Eye, is a monster of living legend. When High Fleet Behemoth descended upon the cavern world of Calth, Old One-Eye spearheaded the Tyranid assault. Stampeding through the defenders, it swatted aside Imperial Guardsmen and Leman Russ battle tanks, as if they were naught but bothersome insects. Only the most powerful of weaponry slowed the beast down, and, to this day, its body bears the scars of the many blows that should, by all rights, have killed it. Foremost amongst these is a deep burn running across its armored skull. A testament to the courage of a long-forgotten hero of the Imperium, who fired a plasma pistol through one of the beast's eyes and into its brain. It was this very shot that brought the Carnifex's rampage to a dramatic halt, the first time such a feat had ever occurred. The legend of Old One-Eye might have ended there had it not been for a band of smugglers who stumbled across the monster's frozen body decades later. Hoping to reap a bounty for the corpse, they thawed the Carnifex out. But even as they did so, its grievous wounds began to heal. Isolated from the guiding presence of the hive mind, Old One-Eye awoke with only the need to kill. Its one remaining eye gazed hungrily upon the unsuspecting smugglers, who barely had time to register the beast was alive before they were slaughtered. Released from its icy prison, Old One-Eye roamed across the blizzard-swept lands of Calth in search of more prey. Like much of the Ultramar system at this time, termagants and gene-stealers still lurked within caves there, despite High Fleet Behemoth's defeat. These creatures were drawn to Old One-Eye, sensing in the Carnifex a powerful alpha leader. All over the Platte, land convoys were destroyed, hab domes smashed, and entire populations massacred and devoured. Calth's cries for help did not go unheeded. Sergeant Telian of the Ultramarines, a veteran of the First Titanic War, answered them. It did not take the scout sergeant long to track his quarry, but neither bolt shell nor knife blade could pierce Old One-Eye's armored hide. As Telian's warriors were crushed to a pulp beneath the Carnifex's massive claws, the sergeant somehow managed to 1-in-a-million shot that found the pit of its ruined eye socket. The mighty Carnifex howled in pain and, in its frenzied rage, stumbled into a cavernous ravine. Though Telian led a week-long search for the beast's body, it was never found. Since that time, there have been scattered reports of Old One-Eye re-emerging to wreak havoc, only to be felled through the actions of a bold hero. Indeed, if all the tales are true, Old One-Eye has been slain more than a dozen times, but at great cost on each occasion. None know of Old One-Eye's true fate. There are those who believe the creature is long dead, and that the tales of its return are mere stories to frighten disobedient children. However, rumors persist that creatures matching Old One-Eye's description have been plaguing planets across Ultramar and beyond. The most recent sighting of a creature resembling the Beast of Calth was upon the world of Tartarus, during High Fleet Leviathan's assault on the Cryptus system. Ignoring the fire from Cadian heavy weapon teams that spattered off its scarred carapace, this Alpha Carnifex smashed apart several of the void shield generators that kept Tartarus protected from devastating solar storms. Not a single Imperial soldier survived the resulting cataclysm. If this is the same creature, it is unknown how it escaped the confines of Koth. But the fact remains that, wherever Old One-Eye is sighted, carnage and slaughter follow in its wake. End quote. Now, Old One-Eye is an exceptionally good model, and we shall get into exactly what it is, our Carnifex, in due order, in due course. For the Carnifex is one of the most interesting and important of all of the figures in Warhammer, and I look forward to telling you all about them in a much, much more expansive entry. I have been Baldermort, your faithful servant. I hope you've enjoyed this brief introduction to Old One-Eye. Now, we do have a second channel, GK Natural History, and affiliate links in the description. And do watch out for our newest channel, called Living Mythology, done in a very novel way, through the medium of story instead of staid and overdone lectures. We are trying to bring the mythology back to life. So, keep your eyes peeled if you are interested in that sort of thing. It begins very, very soon. Thank you for your precious time. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.